The rain on Epsilon Port's steel streets was cold, heavy, and endless. Neon signs flickered through the downpour, hawking everything from engine parts to exotic delicacies. But in the dim corner of the open market, where the shadows stretched long, a different kind of transaction was taking place. Ethan Cole paused when he heard the voice. 3 credits. That's all I ask. Just take her. He turned his head. An alien trader stood behind a rusted cage, his scales dull, his eyes bloodshot. Beside him sat a figure, small, thin, wrapped in rags, with a rough sack pulled over her head. Ethan frowned. What's this? The trader shrugged. Unwanted stock. Won her in a gambling debt. She's mute, broken, useless. Can't get more than 3 credits, so I'll cut my losses. The figure didn't move. She simply sat, knees drawn up, silent as stone. 3 credits. Ethan muttered. It was less than the price of a meal at the port diner. He should have walked away. But loneliness had a way of making men reckless. Ethan had lived 5 years on the edge of civilized space, running cargo alone on his freighter Nomad's Hope. Nights were long, meals were quiet, and silence pressed heavier than any storm. He looked again at the figure with the sack on her head. Something inside him, call it pity, call it stubborn human instinct, refused to let her be left there like garbage. He pulled 3 credits from his belt and tossed them onto the crate. I'll take her. The trader grunted. She's yours. Don't bring her back. Ethan led the girl through the rain to a ship. She followed without resistance, silent as ever, her bare feet splashing in puddles. Inside the Nomad's Hope, he guided her to the galley and gestured to a chair. Sit. She obeyed, hands folded in her lap. The sack still covered her head. Ethan set a steaming bowl of stew on the table. Eat. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, with trembling fingers, she lifted the sack just enough to expose her mouth and began to eat. Fast, desperate, like someone who hadn't tasted real food in weeks. Ethan caught a glimpse beneath the sack, pale blue skin, delicate jawline, and lips that trembled with every bite. He looked away, pretending not to notice. When the bowl was empty, he asked quietly, Do you have a name? No answer. He sighed. All right. Don't worry. You don't owe me anything. You can stay here until you're ready to leave. Still no response. That night, as the engines hummed and rain battered the hull, Ethan lay awake in his bunk. He had bought a stranger for 3 credits, a girl with a sack on her head, silent and broken. He didn't know what she was, where she came from, or why she carried such shame. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel entirely alone. Days turned to weeks. The girl never spoke, but she helped in quiet ways. She cleaned the galley, patched Ethan's torn work clothes, and left steaming cups of tea by the cockpit when he was on long shifts. She still wore the sack over her head, even when they were alone. One day, as Ethan repaired a leaking pipe in the engine room, she appeared at his side with a tool in hand, exactly the one he needed. He blinked. You understand ship work? She only tilted her head, sack swaying slightly, then handed him the tool. Piece by piece, they built a rhythm. Then, one evening, when the suns of a frontier colony were setting outside the viewport, Ethan finally asked the question he had carried since the first night. Why do you hide your face? For a long moment she was still. Then her hands lifted slowly, hesitantly. She tugged the sack upward and let it fall. Ethan's breath caught. Her skin shimmered faintly, like starlight on water. Her hair was silver white, cascading to her shoulders. Her eyes glowed soft violet, wide with fear. But across her left cheek ran a jagged scar, old and deep, twisting the delicate beauty of her features. She lowered her gaze. Her lips trembled. Ethan's heart ached. That's it? That's why you hide? Because of a scar? Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away. Ethan reached out, gently lifting her chin, so she met his gaze. Listen to me. You're not broken. You're not worthless. Whoever told you that, whoever made you believe that was wrong. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came. Instead, she pressed her forehead to his chest, trembling. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, holding her as though the universe itself might shatter her if he let go. Her name, he learned later, was Arya. The muteness was not choice but damage. Years ago, slavers had burned her throat with a shock collar, stealing her voice. The scar was from the same cruelty. But on the Nomad's hope, she found healing. Ethan bought voice synth implants, teaching her to use them slowly. Her first spoken word, whispered in halting static, was his name. Ethan. He almost cried. Seasons passed. Arya laughed again, soft and bright, though still shaped by the electronic hum of her voice. She learned human cooking, filling the ship with the scent of breads and soups. Ethan taught her how to pilot the freighter, her slender hands steady on the controls. And somewhere between shared meals and long nights under starlight, affection grew into love. It wasn't sudden. It was quiet, patient, inevitable like water carving stone. One evening, as the ship drifted above a violet nebula, Ethan took her hand. Arya, he said softly, I know I bought you for 3 credits. But I never wanted to own you. What I want is to share my life with you. Will you marry me? Her eyes widened, tears glimmering. She nodded once, fiercely. The wedding was small, just them. 2 human friends from a neighboring ship, and a Valeth trader who knew the old vows. Ethan placed a simple silver band on her finger. Arya whispered her vows through the voice synth, her voice trembling but clear. I was nothing. You made me everything. I was alone. You gave me family. Yes, I choose you. And when Ethan kissed her, the scar on her cheek seemed not a mark of shame, but of survival. Years later, the freighter Nomad's hope was no longer crewed by one lonely man. Children's laughter filled the halls. 2 little ones, part human, part alien, with their mother's violet eyes and their father's stubborn grin. Arya sang to them in a soft, broken voice that technology could never fully smooth, but love made beautiful. Ethan built toys from spare ship parts, their laughter echoing through steel corridors. They were no longer alone. Whenever colonists asked about their story, Ethan would smile and say, I paid 3 credits for a girl with a sack on her head. Best bargain I ever made. And Arya, standing beside him with their children clinging to her arms, would only smile, because she knew the truth. A lonely human had given her not pity, but love. And together, they had built a family among the stars.